All right. So I'll be on my best behavior since recording gets started. So let me rephrase that. So today, my topic, I'll be taking the first half of the session, and my topic would be Master ALM in Power Platform. And if you work with Power Platform, Canvas apps, model-driven apps, data flows, or any kind of Power Automate, BI report, dataset, semantic model, Copilot Studios, be it anything, you would have faced that process that when you are moving from your solution from dev to UAT or production, you would have to manually export your solution and import it in your UAT or production. Now that becomes a very tedious process when you are pushing regular updates to your solutions. And one time when I was working on one solution, I pushed 54 different versions, and that was manual before Power Platform pipelines, and DevOps was not being used by the organization, so couldn't do anything. Manual export and import 54 times. Imagine my frustration. So that's why when you're working with any big project and you are pushing regular updates to your environments, upstream environments, then Power Platform pipelines can save ton of your time and implement a good, healthy ALM practice for your organization as well. So you can see we will be talking about how low code deployment pipelines and what needs to be done, and what is it that we need to configure from environment wise and everything. So let's get started. I will quickly switch out and open make.powerapps.com. So let's quickly go to our solution. So now I'll talk about two different approach. So there is one which is the governed approach, where you create one dedicated environment and you configure your pipelines in that particular hosting environment, versus you don't create any hosting environment and you just click the deployment icon inside your solution, which will create in the backend. How it works is it creates a new hosting environment automatically, which cannot be governed by your admins, right? So that's not a good practice. That's why we will be talking about the second approach, which is dedicated hosting environment. So for now, we will quickly create a demo solution. Right? We'll select our default publisher, and that's it. So whenever you're working or kicking start any project, it's always good practice that you create a solution first and do everything inside that solution. So we created our own solution. For now, we will just create a simple environment variable so that it doesn't take ages to export and import and run the pipeline. By the way, at any point of time, if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand and I'll be able to take up your query. I'll be just text current value dev environment. And this will be the only component in our solution so that it doesn't take much time to export and import. So now we have one environment variable created. Now the approach, the first approach I was talking about was without the governance one, right? So you can see we have pipelines tab here, and right now in the drop down there is nothing appearing, and you have this one as well which will say create new pipeline. Now you can create your pipeline without the governance hosting environment, but that is not a good practice because your admins will not be able to manage who is creating these pipelines, and instead of all the pipelines under one umbrella, there will be like, if the organization big, there can be 50 different pipelines scattered across the environments. That's why from an admin side of things, it's not a good practice to click on this button. Although it's very easy, you just click it, select your target environment, and be it. But that's what not we are doing today, not good practice. So what we will be doing, we will be creating a new environment and installing our pipeline hosting environment solution there so that we can manage it properly. So you can see I have two environments right now. I'll create um, my hosting environment very quickly. Right. So we will name this pipeline hosting. Pipelines hosting environment default is that. Now, ideally, the pipeline hosting environment should be of production type, but because of the capacity constraint in this tenant, I'll be using the developer one so that I don't have to have 1 GB of storage. But when you are doing it for actual production usage, make sure that your type is of production for your hosting environment, where we will be creating all different pipelines inside this. So you can see everything is set. Let's click next. And that will create my pipeline hosting environment. It will take a minute or so to actually get ready with the state. Okay, perfect. So you can see state is ready now. We open this environment and we will install a solution from resources of Dynamics 365 apps, and the solution is called Power Platform Pipelines. So we'll quickly search for Power Platform, search for pipelines. Search is not working. Okay, it's not appearing in this environment. I think it's not ready yet. Generally, when it's completely ready, the environment, it should it should appear in this list. Okay. All right. Anyways, if this will take some time, let me stop sharing. I'll switch out the account so that I can show you how it actually looks.
Yes, Sanjay, you can ask your query.
So, so the staging environment, right? You push the managed solution into staging environment, and from that, we have to deploy to other UAT or different client environment. Is that the idea?
Yes, that's right. So you have your dev and you have your test, or you have your prod, right? So yeah, always we follow three environment approach. You have your dev, you have your UAT, and you have your production environment. So you do development in your dev environment, and then you push that managed solution from your dev to your prod, and use your prod database, prod tables, prod SharePoint list, everything in your prod environment. That's the idea. And now hosting environment is basically, imagine hosting environment as the orchestrator, so that whenever you are creating a new pipeline, you are creating in your hosting environment and pushing via your hosting. So all your deployment release notes, deployment configurations, and everything will be in your hosting environment. That's the idea. Does it make
I
sense?
get it. Yeah, it makes sense. The connection strings, right? Let's say we use a particular connection string for dev or non-prod, right? And we are using for external API calls or the connection strings, let's say we are using on Outlook. For non-prod, we might use a particular connection string, and in prod, we might not use the same. So how do we handle that piece? Like, do we change it in prod manually, or
Now, so connection string will be changed when you are deploying your solution. So when it actually deploys, there will be a pop-up saying change your connections to your prod ones, and change your environment variable values as well, which I'll show you in a second, that pop-up which appears. And that will show you how it actually looks when it is deploying one solution to another. Let me share my screen back, change the account. Yeah, okay. So let me go back here. Now this I have already installed it, and which I will show you how you need to install it. It's just that account can take ages. So yeah, perfect. So you can see I have my hosting environment here, and we go to resources, go to Dynamics 365 apps, and search for pipelines. Still turn up. Right. So this one, yeah, deployment. They renamed it. That's why. Okay. Microsoft App Deployment Model App. Right. Anyways, so once that solution is installed in your pipelines, which I couldn't show you in the Scratch demo. So this is the solution which I have installed by going into my Power Platform hosting and resources, Dynamics 365 apps, and you will have all these different solutions up out of the box from Microsoft itself. So you can see we have Power Platform Environment Settings app as well, which is installed. It has connection references as well, and Power Apps SharePoint integration app. All these Dynamics applications are installed by default, and it should have pipelines, but I think they renamed that solution to something else very recently. Last time I checked, it was still Power Platform Pipelines. But anyway, I'll check and let you know. But once you install that solution in your hosting environment, this deployment configuration pipeline model driven app should appear. Now, this is the solution which you will be using to create your pipelines and manage it. So if I quickly play this, it will be a model driven app. And what you need to do is, so you can see I have two different pipelines created already here. Now the step by step would be, once you open this solution, what you need to do is go to environments and link your environments one by one in this. Okay, perfect. So you can see I have my three environments. If and the approach would be, what you need to do is, let's say this will be my library management dev, right? and environment type would be development. You will have one development environment always, and your environment ID, how you can get it, you just go to your environments, open that dev environment. So for now I am using like library management type 1. Copy this ID from here, environment ID, come here, paste that environment and save it. Once it is successfully saved, your validation status would change from pending to success. If there is any error, you will see error message why the validation status failed. So you can see the refresh if I say, and you can see validation status changed from development to success, sorry, pending to success. That's how you create your dev environment and link it to your pipelines and pipelines application. Then once you have your dev environment linked, it will appear in this list where it will have all the environments linked to this. Similarly, I linked my dev, my prod, and my UAT. So this is the three environment approach I was talking about. These are my three environments which I will be using to move from my solution from dev to prod. Now let's head back and let's open one of my dev environments. This I will create like a sample solution again so that I can use this one. Select my publisher as default, create. Perfect. So I have this. I'll create again an environment variable. Right. So now I created my solution as well. I linked my dev environment as well. So similarly, you need to follow for UAT and prod. Now, once you have linked all these three environments to your pipeline app, you need to go to pipelines tab, which is like below environments. And what you need to do, just like I have two different pipelines created, what I need to do is create new pipeline. Now, I'll name this as paper pipeline demo. Okay. Now I have my pipeline created, and what I need to do, if you want to provide a description, provide a description. Save. The moment you save it, you will have the below options enabled, which are these two. Okay. So now my pipeline is saved. I have my environments linked as well. Now what I need to do is open my pipeline and add what dev environment I will be using to push my solution from, right? So this is what linked development environment means. So if I quickly click add existing development environments and link my, let's say, dev. So I link my personal dev account. So I will be moving my solution from this dev environment. Now, where I will be moving my solution to, that's that's where we defined deployment stages. Now, we defined from where I will be moving my solution. Now we need to define to which environment I will be moving my solution to. So that's where deployment stage comes in. So my deployment stage would be dev to, let's say, UAT. Okay. And moving solution and so previous deployment stage for this stage would be blank, but I'll show you what this means when we are moving from dev to production. Now, this is where I need to configure target deployment environment ID. Now I need to move my solution to UAT because my deployment stage says I am moving from dev to UAT. So similarly, I select my UAT environment and that's it. These are some advanced options which says pre-export step required, pre-deployment step required, or delegated deployment. These are like advanced versions. So you can use service principal, you can use stage owners, and actually your components ownership will shift to your stage owner or service principal. These are the advanced options available within your pipeline, which we can cover probably in the next session if you really want to see how these things works. But for now, we'll be creating the pipeline, simple pipeline, and move our solution from dev to UAT and then finally UAT to production. So you can see all my fields are populated correctly. I'll quickly click save and close. Now, pipelines wise, that was all. If we just want to move our solution from dev to UAT. So if I quickly go back and refresh this tab, my dev environment, go to our pipelines tab, and you can see the pipeline we just created, which was BPPUG pipeline demo. And you can see I have one stage here, which is dev to UAT. Okay. No other stage which says UAT to prod or UAT to test or any other thing. So that's my first deployment stage. Now I want to configure another one. Now I'm saying that, okay, I took my solution from dev, pushed it to UAT. Now I want to take UAT latest version and push to prod once my UAT is done from the end users. So for that, what we need to do is click again, new deployment stage. Naming would be UAT to prod. Once this is done, now this step becomes very crucial. Now, previous deployment stage. Now, if I click this one, dev to UAT becomes visible, right? And what I'm doing now, I'm saying that UAT to prod deployment stage, which is the third one. Let's say we have three, one, two, and three. So the third deployment stage or third step is now dependent on the second step until and unless there is a latest version in UAT. This UAT to prod won't be visible or won't be available to deploy. That's what it means to make interdependent on each other. So dev to UAT, and now a target deployment would be my production environment. That's what my production environment is. And I make sure that my production environment step is dependent on the latest version to my UAT. So you can see right now I have dev to UAT only. And now this third step will be visible the moment I refresh. So I created the third step as well. Perfect. You can see UAT to prod is now visible. Okay. And you can see the deploy here button, how it's disabled. That means it's making sure that you first need to perform this where your solution is successfully deployed to UAT, then only it will allow us to push to prod. That's what I was talking about, governance, right? So if you create your own pipeline by clicking this little icon here, it will be very difficult for your admins or yourself if you are managing, or if you are, let's say, creating pipelines for your team itself to be, to manage all these little things, which make sure that someone new joins your team or someone new or completely unaware of these pipelines is using them, then they follow a proper standard approach. Now I'll show you what happens when you not make your third step interlinked with your second step. So let me quickly go back, open my UAT to deployment stage, and I will remove my pre-deployment stage and I will save and close. Did I click? Already exists without a previous stage to resolve this. Okay, it's now linked with that one, so it won't allow me to do it. Okay, but I guess you will you will be able to see this if I create right late. But yeah, so if you don't make your step dependent, then this deploy here button will be visible and this deploy here button will be visible as well, both of them. And if accidentally you click UAT to prod, then what it will do is take your development version and directly push it to prod, which will be bad if you haven't done your testing on that application or any solution as well. So that's why it becomes very crucial that your previous deployment stage is set to your dev to UAT or any other or previous deployment stage so that you follow a proper standard process. Now let's quickly see. Now I'll show you the panel where it allows you to update your values of your connection references or your environment variables both. Right, so I will quickly create a connection reference as well because you wanted to see how it will allow you to change it. So I'll say demo connection. Okay, I will choose SharePoint for now. Yeah, create. Okay, perfect. So I have two components right now. And now what we will do, we will click deploy here now, next, without doing any manual import export. And I'll quickly show you the current state of the UAT as well, so that you can see that there is no BPUG solution available right now under managed solutions. You can see no BPUG solution available. Let's quickly head back. And this is our UAT. And now we are pushing without manual import export. We are pushing the solution from dev to UAT. It says validating. It will take a minute or so and perfect. And there we go. So now you can see the destination is set, the connection and environment variable, it is allowing me to change it. So hope that answers your question and query, Sanjay, that how we will change the connection references or any API configuration while pushing our solution to UAT and prod. So you can see here, you can add a new connection if this account is not actually your production account or doesn't have access on production environment. So you can create a new connection, log in with your production account, and then click next. And similarly, you have environment variables as well, and it's allowing me to update the value. So current value was dev. Now I'm changing it to UAT. UAT environment. We'll hit next and deploy. So once the deployment, yeah, so you can see currently deploying version 1.1 to my UAT environment. Once this is successfully deployed, you will start seeing the BPUG solution and the updated values of your environment variable and the connection reference as well.
Sanjay, yeah, you can ask your query.
Yeah.
So right now we are moving from dev to UAT, right?
Yes.
So if we it is a managed solution, I guess.
Yes.
If the thing what I feel in my release management, right? So we do the same, but the problem is before the day of the release, some of the developers change something in dev, and that dev solution goes to prod. And is there a way to take the managed solution from UAT and directly put it to prod, or
Yeah.
is there a way? Yeah.
Yes. So in this pipeline, you see, without putting the latest version
Mm-hmm.
from dev to UAT, you won't be able to push it to prod, right? So
Mm-hmm.
without UAT containing the latest version of your solution, it won't allow you to push it to prod.
I'm I'm thinking about the source. right? If let's say you create a solution with a couple of tables, it's in
Yes.
development environment, and we have
Yes.
migrated to UAT. Testing is done, and
Yes.
it will say that a deploy stage is complete, right? And let's say it's
Yes.
in V1, and we change
Mhm.
something in dev, uh, but the deploy in UAT to pre-prod will still be open because from dev to UAT migration is not there. Am I making sense?
So let me rephrase so that I understand correctly. You're saying that you pushed V1 version from your dev to UAT, testing is
Yes.
done, and you pushed it to
Mm-hmm.
prod as well. Then
Mm-hmm.
you create some changes in, or you do some changes in your development, which creates your V2,
No,
and
no.
you,
That's so we have pushed it till UAT. Testing is done.
okay, yes,
Let's say tomorrow is the day of the release,
yes,
and the developers made changes in the development environment, like some minor changes, right?
yeah, yeah.
Uh, so is my question is there a way to put the latest whatever is in UAT directly to prod? Because in our pipelines, the development solution again goes to prod, which means the changes that they made, right? We have to. There's no way to log them out. Am I making sense?
Yes, you are, but that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, right? So you have you have some changes done in your
Mm-hmm.
development, right? And you don't want to
Mm-hmm.
push those changes directly to your prod. You want to
Mm-hmm.
push a stable version in your prod from UAT,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's what
Yes.
this is, right? So you
Okay.
have 1.1 version here, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have 1.1, and if you click this deploy here, this 1.1 will be pushed. So if you
Oh.
do any changes which
Mm-hmm.
says 1.2 here, but your UAT will
Mm-hmm.
still say 1.1, and 1.1 will be
Mm-hmm.
deployed to prod, not 1.2.
Oh, nice.
That, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the beauty of the pipelines, right? So you have to
Mm-hmm.
follow the approach until and unless
Mm-hmm.
your UAT contains 1.2, your prod
Mm-hmm.
will not allow you to push 1.2. So this deploy here button will push 1.1 version. That means from previous deployment stage, which is this one, it will allow you to push this version only. Yes, Shibin.
Yeah, as you mentioned that in the stage UAT to prod, if we have not mentioned like the previous stage is dev to UAT,
Yes.
and we have version 1.2 available in dev, and
Yes.
after that
Then
we
you
are
will be allowed to
going,
push it.
then then if I'm clicking on dev deploy here in UAT to prod, so which version will I get?
Yes, that's the problem. So if you don't if you don't make your steps interdependent, then it will push
Mm-hmm.
1.2 to your prod directly, because your
Okay,
source is dev and your target is prod. It doesn't know if there is something in the middle or not. That's the
okay,
problem. Just to
okay.
make your UAT to prod aware that there's something in the middle as well, which you have to follow. That's when it becomes interdependent. Otherwise, it will take your dev and push it to prod. It's not aware if something is in the
Mm-hmm.
middle or not.
Okay, got it.
Perfect. So, okay. Hope that answers your question as well, Sanjay.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So you can see last deployed 3 minutes ago. Let's head back to UAT and let's hit refresh to manage, and you can see debug solution, and you can see the version is 1.1. If I open this, I will have two components, which will be my connection reference and my environment variable. Perfect. So you can see this. And if I open my environment variable, you can see the current value is UAT environment. And if I go back, open my environment variable in my dev environment, it will say dev. So that's what a proper pipeline and a healthy ALM allows you to configure a proper standard approach, so that you accidentally not push the wrong version, you accidentally don't push unmanaged or like in development features to prod, and you always push a stable version from UAT to prod. There is no link between your dev to prod directly. It will always come via this deployment stage, which is dev to UAT, and your sign-offs needs to be done as well. Now, in there are some advanced features available as well. So let's say let's talk about another scenario where you developed 1.2 version and you pushed it to UAT. Now UAT contains 1.2 and then you pushed it to prod as well without any approval or anything, right? So that's when your admin or yourself as let's say a senior dev can go one step beyond and implement some approval process in the middle. So those approval process will allow you to approve the changes. So for example, let's say a junior is pushing 1.2 version to UAT, and you know as senior dev that okay, that doesn't sound right because I haven't given any permission to push the latest version to UAT. So even if they click this deploy here button, it will not allow them to directly just import or push the solution to UAT. Yourself, let's say you configured yourself as the approver, you will receive a pop-up notification saying approval required for the latest push to UAT, and you can have the details as well. Once you click approve, then only it will allow you to push. So that's the next step. You can go one step beyond as well and implement better ALM and healthy practices. But in this session, I was planning to cover the basics of healthy ALM, and probably in the next session and the future sessions, I will cover the delegated deployments and the approval processes as well. But hope this makes sense and you were able to understand it. Any questions, any queries on this? I'll take that as a no. Okay, perfect. So the last thing is to deploy our UAT version to prod. But for now, I'll just do one thing. I will make some changes in dev so that it makes one more thing clear to Sanjay's query. Okay, I'll create in one more environment variable. Yes,
Sorry
Sanjay.
if I have so many questions. I handle release management and it is for 3 clients and it is a very, very difficult task for me. And there are 3 to 4 resources as well. We get stuck in the deployment for 3 hours every time.
I know sometimes your solution is very big and it takes a lot of time to export and import. Okay, so I created one more environment variable. Now this supports your argument that you made some small changes in your dev and then you're pushing from UAT to prod, right? So if I go back here, so now I have 3 objects in my dev environment. I have 2 objects in my UAT environment. Now finally I need to see, okay, open prod. I don't have any solution with the name of BPPUG solution right now in my prod. So let's go back to the pipeline and click deploy here. Now, after validating, when we push our solution from UAT to prod, it will only contain 2 objects, which is our environment variable and the connection. Okay, perfect. Next, and this is my prod environment variable. Next, and deploy. So you can see currently deploying version 1.1 to production. Now, once deployment is done, we will see the solution appearing. will take a minute or two. And using this pipeline approach, you can actually see the details of your deployments as well. You can see the first one I did, which was dev to UAT, and then it was UAT to prod. Yeah, okay, perfect. So it got deployed. Let's open our prod. Hit refresh. Go to manage, sample solution. And fingers crossed, we should have 2 components only. I'm just kidding. We will have 2 only. Okay, so you can see we have 2 components only. So it doesn't matter what changes you are doing in your dev, which I did. It will always take the UAT version, which was the stable version, and push it to production. Hope that makes sense and cleared your question a little better as well. Right, so any questions on this? Guess not. Okay, so yeah, that was all for my demo today. Hope you guys learned something in terms of our platform pipelines and how to configure and use it to deploy and save time. Save the tedious process of pushing multiple small releases to your UAT and prod manually. Right. So for the next hour, I'll let Ajay take over. So over to you, Ajay.
Yes, Akshansh. Yep. I hope no one has any more queries on ALM process. Okay, I think it's good. Apart from what Akshansh covered, the practices I follow majorly, one practice is I always take unmanaged solution as an export before even starting ALM pipeline. So again, we push something into production, something goes wrong, and we start next sprint development. That goes into chaos because we don't have any unmanaged solution previous version which we need to roll back and make some changes. So I usually take an unmanaged solution backup copy so that if something goes wrong, we always have a backup copy which we can use in future for hard fixes. Yep. And also let me show my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yep. In this session, I would be covering Power Automate, what are different types of errors we get, and how we can do the error handling, and as well as how effectively we can even use errors in order as a functionality as well. So that would be the session topics: common errors in Power Automate, prerequisites of error handling, different techniques we can use for error handling, and effective use of errors. Uh, about myself, I already covered during the introduction, but yeah, I'm a community contributor. Like I said, I answer questions in the community. Apart from that, me along with Akshan founded this Bangalore Power Platform user group, and we host events like mentioned during the start of session. We speak as well as we organize the event if anyone is willing to share their knowledge. Our community motto is sharing is caring. So we are more than happy to host any session for you. Apart from that, I also create content in my LinkedIn as well as I write blogs on community as well. So that's about me. And if you want to follow me, you would be able to see me as developer AJ. I go by the same name in the community as well. Let's jump into session. Yep, errors in Power Automate. We get a lot of errors or different types of errors. Here are like some common errors, but obviously, in order to work, we only have one way. But when it comes to errors, we have like infinity. So you might get any number of errors. So here, like action gets failed, you might have missing privileges, service account has the access, but the connections are used, you are using is personal connections, etc. Or data type mismatches, you're trying to store a string in an integer, and vice versa. And there are like infinity loops, you have some dual execution, and in that particular process the condition is never met and it goes to infinity, etc. So those are like common type of errors. Yep. How do we handle errors? um, you can see we can handle errors, try catch, finally blocks. If you're coming from a coding platform, you might have had try catch and also try catch finally. We can implement the same in the Power Automate as well. When it comes to debugging, you can always debug using compose actions, and you should be able to check the run history of the flow in order to debug the flows. And again, based on the error, you can always configure different actions like sending emails, sending teams, or sending an notification in the mobile as well. So that's about the presentation. Let me quickly jump into practical session. Before going to that, just when Actions was trying, you are not able to see the Dynamics 365, which usually you need to see. But if this is not available here, you should be able to install it from. Once you click on install app, you will get all the application that you can install. It's just that Microsoft did some new change, new admin center, and it is filtering out some of the application. That's the reason you did not see when Actions was giving a demo. Apart from that, you can also install it from Dynamics 365 apps. You would be able to see all the application that again you can install in any environment. Some are enabled, some are not configured. Your admin should be able to restrict the even the configurations here as well. Yep. Just want to quickly cover that because yeah, we missed that in the previous session. Okay, let me quickly start with a flow. Usually we do in a solution, but just for the demo purpose, I would be creating a manual flow outside the solution. I'm still not a fan of modern UI, so I would be shifting to classic UI. Sometimes this toggle may not work. So all you can, what you need to do is you have the query parameter, which is v3. For modern UI, you should be keeping it as true, and for classic UI, if you make it as false, it works exactly as the classic toggle button. Okay. For error handling, we have some components that we need to know. One of the component is workflow, which helps us to get the respective environment, respective flow, as well as respective flow run. You would be getting all those details from workflow. That's the reason I added this in the first step. I would be creating one temporary test variable just to deliberately make an error. We have something called scope, which you can consider as something as a group by, where you can store all the actions that you want to handle in a scope and define your conditions like try, catch, and finally blocks. So here you can create any number of actions. There are certain limitations to scope. I will be sharing that in a blog. I already have wrote a blog about that. I would be sharing that. For example, one limitation I can show you right now is you can always use an add an action, but you will not get parallel branch, which is available outside the scope. But if you try to do it in scope, it is not available. So that's one of the limitation of scope. I created compose action in order to give some deliberate issue. It could be dividend divisor. Here I would be setting the variable. What I'm trying to do is I would be dividing one with whatever the variable I am getting from the compose action. If it is one, everything is good, the flow would be successful. But let's say if it is zero, 1/0 is infinity, which cannot be handled by the variable. Let me quickly run this. You can see I have used workflow formula. From workflow formula, you would be able to get environment ID as well as the environment ID, flow ID. You can even get the run history ID, which you can use in order to get to actual run history formula. So these are the different variables available. So it you will be able to guide the user. Let's say I got one error, instead of me going to the respective environment manually and going to the respective flow manually, we can always redirect them using a flow URL, which will redirect them to the respective run history. In order to build that particular logic, we need to use this workflows formula that will help us or guide us to build a respective URL. That's the reason I was showing you the syntax. Then I have variable and the scope. Since I use the divisor is one by one, it's fine. It makes sense and it divided. But right now, let me deliberately throw an error. Let me go to run history. So why we need error handling? For example, as you can see, my flow got failed, but as a flow owner, I don't have any idea that this particular flow got failed. But I need to take an action before even the client or the respective business owner reaches out to me. I need to identify my flow got failed, and I should be in a stage where I would be fixing the flow issue in dev environment and trying to or plan a deployment. But in order to know that, I need to effectively handle the error in the Power Automate flow. So for that, we would be using scope and we would be using workflow. And let me show you first try catch scopes. So one scope I use try, which where I would be leveraging or using all the actions that I need. So I would be adding all those actions here. Then I would be having something called catch scope, which I would be configuring. So there is a setting called configure run after. Once you click on three dots, you would be able to see configure run after, which you can set. And which you can use as a flow fail condition. So in my case, if flow gets failed, skip, timed out, I want to run this particular action and I want to use this scope as a catch scope. Let's say catch and this scope as try scope. Another thing I would be showing you here is it's good that if something gets failed here, it comes to this and it will execute whatever the logic that we have written here. But if I see an email, I just see like flow got failed and I see a link that shouldn't be sufficient for me. I actually want to or know before even opening the flow what exactly got failed. So that even makes more sense to me. For that reason, what action we can use is something called form result. Result will give you what takes parameter, which is a action name. Here you can give any action name, and the output would be whatever the exact flow run happens. You need to give quotes, then followed by the action name. So what here I'm trying to achieve is I would be getting all the results of this action, since they are all available in the scope. I would be getting all those results using this particular formula. So let me save this. We'll resubmit. See, flow was successful because I was handling the error properly. When the error was handled, I was able to do certain step. That's the reason flow was successful. And I showed you I was using result formula. So it will give you the output of each action that you use in the respective action. Since it's a scope, it's a combination of actions. You will be seeing first action compose divisor, which is successful, but flow got fail with this particular action, which is set variable action. It's a bad request and code is invalid template, and the error message is unable to process template language expression or decimal value by 0 in function div. So this is the error message I have received. So this is how you would be handling errors. But as you can see, my flow got failed, but flow status is successful, which is not proper, right? So for those reasons, what we can do is we have something called terminate action. If flow gets failed, I would be terminating the flow as fail action. If flow is successful, it will be giving you success message. And since you are getting the error code, you can always use the error code and error message here as well. This will make my flow fail. Let me rerun this particular condition. So the difference you would be seeing for the previous run and the current run is earlier when the flow got executed, the flow run was successful, but which is wrong because my flow got failed. Ideally, I handle error. That's the reason the flow status is successful. But now what I would be doing, I'm deliberately saying that flow got failed. So the status would be changed and it will be now flow run fail. So that's how you can handle try and catch, and by using try and catch, you would be able to handle the errors. Let me build the flow run URL as well so that we can share it. Concat. So how would be building the respective flow run history URL? As you can see, this is my flow run history URL, right? It starts with since this is a developer environment, I allowed like preview settings. That's the reason the environment URL is this, but usually it will be make.powerautomate.com. This is only applicable for like developer tenants, which I am using for this particular demo. So I would, it starts with http make.powerautomate.com environment, which is static. So I would be using this. After environment slash, I need to get the environment ID, but I cannot hardcode this environment ID because once it goes to UAT, I should be using the respective UAT environment, right? But this particular environment ID, I can always get it from the workflow formula. You can see this environment is, which is exactly same as a URL. So again, if you're not good with JSON and you want to make your life easier, there is an action called parse JSON, which generates from a sample. This is my sample. Now I can easily use the respective. Let me search. It will be tags. Under tags, we have something called environment name. So if I search for environment name, this is my environment. After environment, I need to get the flow ID, which again comes from the same formula. You can see this logic app, which is a flow run ID. Oh, sorry, flow ID. So similarly, like environment, you can also get the flow ID. Name would be logic app name. Then followed by flow run history ID, which is this. If you see, this is a run history object where it gives you run history ID 085844 and 08544, which comes under run object. So I need to get name. You have two names here, but as you can see, once you hover on that, it will be run name and there is one direct name. If you use direct name, then it will give you this, which is flow ID, but what actually we need is flow run history ID. So you need to select the run ID object. So it should be run question mark name. So these are the parameters that we need for building a flow history URL dynamically. So let me build this now. And the final step is run name. Hoping this is a run name. Yep. So make.forautomate.com environment slash environment ID followed by flow ID followed by runs and the run history ID. So this will dynamically generate the flow run history URL, which would be exactly same as the whatever the URL that you see on the top. As you can see, this generated the URL, and if you use this URL, it will take you to the fail for a run history. Again, if you're not a fan of modern UI, then what you need to do is at the end, you should be adding so that will make the flow open in the classic mode. Again, it depends on the user. Ideally, you should be using modern UI, but some users are not comfortable like me. So I would prefer using a classic UI and I would append the query parameter over there. Any questions until this? Okay, I take that as a no. So I got the flow run history URL. I need the error message as well. So for getting the error messages, what I can do is I would be using filter. Again, if you're not comfortable using filters, you can always use pass.json in order to extract the formula as well. So this is the JSON. Now I want to do a filter and extract only the error messages. So let me do pass.json. And how would I get the error message? Is based on the status. So I want to get all the messages where the status says fail. So I would be filtering the respective array using this particular condition. So then status is equal to fail. This will give me the actual action that got fail, which I can use to send the email with error message properly. So this filtered out and it gave me the respective action that got failed. From here, using select statement, you can get the error code, error message, and from there you would be able to create an HTML table and send an email. Let me even quickly show that actions. If I use select, let me first to pass this on. So item question mark error question mark code. Then I need error message. Which gives me error message. I might need to get even error action, which comes from the name. So these are the like parameter that I usually use, but again, feel free to use any parameter that makes more sense to you. Um, so this will extract all the parameters that I need to send in an email. Once I have this, I can always use the HTML table action and build an HTML table. So with the select, I got the error message that I need, and I have created an HTML table, which I can send in an email to the respective business stakeholders or to the respective developer team. This is how we handle errors using try catch blocks. Any queries in this? Okay, I take it as a no. Um, Try catch usually sufficient enough for most of the business logic, but in some scenarios or in most where you need to maintain flow logs or where you need to inform or maintain the status of each flow run history, you might need to execute one extra action, right? Even though it gets fail or even it's successful. If it's successful, probably I create a SharePoint list entry saying that this particular flow was run successfully at this particular point of time. But if it gets fail also, I need to execute the respective step. In those cases, we would be using the finally block. What what we would be doing is we would be setting configure run after as even if it is successful, fail, skip, timed out, no matter what, please run the finally block. Here, based on the number of errors you are getting, you would be able to add one condition here. Before that, you can also create a variable in order to store errors. Initialize variable array errors. So initially it will be empty, but if flow goes into the catch block, then we will be populating this particular array, which we can use in the condition. Let's say length of array, or if array is empty, I can use empty. You can use either empty, or there should be one expression called length. Okay, length. Both should work. If array length is 0, it means flow ran successfully. You can execute your successful final statements. If length is greater than 0, you can execute the catch statement or the final statement that you want to execute once the flow got failed. If you are using catch block, only try and catch block, your emails and all the communication that you need to do should be coming up here. But if you're using the finally, then the ideal way to communicate to the respective stakeholders is using the no block. So if arrays are greater than 0, if we populated the array, then we can use the respective array, and we can create an HTML table here and then send the respective link as well as the HTML table of errors to the respective stakeholders using the no condition. So it depends on what action you are be using. If you are using then finally, then your terminate also goes here instead of in the catch statement. And similarly, it's not required or mandatory, but if it is goes into successful uh, terminate, you can also terminate the flow as successful. So this is how we can create a try catch finally or try catch blocks in the flow in order to handle the errors. So that's about error handling in the Power Automate flow. Any queries? Okay, I can take it as a no. Then I would explain how we can even use the errors. One such example is sometimes you have some Power App or some backend SharePoint list where the users are entering the URL, but again, if you give free control to user, they might enter some random URLs, which if you're not handling in Power App, then the SharePoint stores the same way. But ideally, if you're sending this URL in an email to certain stakeholders, once they click on the URL, it throws some random issues, right? So ideally, you need to validate the URL before even going to the uh, email section. If the URL is proper, you might need to send a URL in an email. But if URL is not proper, then you need to say this, maybe remove the respective part from your email communication itself. But Power Automate does not support any inbuilt action for validating the URLs. We have third-party connectors again, which we should do not choose until we have a consent from the client. So, but how we can strategically even use the Power Automate flow errors in order to handle or evaluate the URL, I will be showing you here. Let me move these blocks from here to here. The reason is I want to use a parallel branch. Compose. This is fail branch, and this would be the successful branch. First, I would give the proper URL. So I gave a proper URL and it was able to extract the URI host, and it proceeded normally to the respective flow execution. And this particular loop or the particular branch was never executed. But what happens if I give some random string here instead of the URL? Since it does not have any HTTP or WWW protocol, this is not a proper URL. If we try to execute this, this particular action got failed, it means that the URL that I passed to the URI host property is not a proper URL. So I can handle that particular statement here. So ideally, even though there is no URI validator in Power Automate, you can even use the errors in order to validate your URL. This is just one of the example, but you can also use HTTP get file from URLs or Dataverse actions or any other particular action. Sometimes even the file you want to extract is not available, still it should not stop you from executing the further actions, right? In those cases you can use a branching loop and you continue the logic even though the particular action gets failed. So even there are errors, you should be able to use a errors sometimes in order to achieve your logic in the flow. These are like certain examples, but you might even get more examples once you start working on Power Automate flows. So that's how effectively you can use. And other ways you can use is whenever you run the action, you would be getting the respective output parameters from the result actions, and it gives you status code. Based on the status code you would be since these are like normal actions, it did not reach, give you the status code, but if you are running an HTTP action, etc., it also give you status code like 40450 fun. Sometimes some of them are like threshold limits, right? If I get a 505, it's an internal server error. It means that if I run the same action after 10 seconds, it might execute. So there are no issues with the Power Automate flow. It's just that there is an issue with the threshold limit of API. So in these cases, it's not ideal to send an error message to the respective stakeholder, and they come to the flow and check the actions. Everything looks good. They try to resubmit it. Then you would be the flow executes successfully. But the issue is because of the threshold limit of API. Sometimes you need to rerun the flow. Sorry, you need to rerun the action. So even in those cases, you can use the error status codes to even evaluate whether you need to rerun the respective action or you need to fail the flow and you need to send an email to the respective stakeholders. So you can even handle errors in a proper way in order to achieve your logic as well. So that's about handling errors in Power Automate. Any queries? Okay, I take it as a no. That's it for the demo. You have the skeleton. Try catch finally skeleton, and you know how to achieve this particular skeleton. And when it comes to adding actions inside the skeleton, it's up to the business logic that you want to use. You want to send an email, you can add an email action. If you want to send an Teams message, Teams action, or if you want to just ignore the errors and just make the flow fail, you can also do the same as well. So it depends on the business logic, what exactly you need to do in the skeleton, you should be able to do it. Yeah, that's it for Power Automate error handling.
Thank you, Ajay.
Yep.
So thank you, everyone. So hope you guys learned something today, and we'll be hosting more sessions, as I mentioned, probably more regular than this one. So hopefully I'll see you all there in the next sessions as well.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your Sunday.